have this for everyone. All right, so I'm going to log into my command account. And in today's class, I'm going to cover opportunities. So we're going to go through all the ins and outs of what is the opportunities application. To create an opportunity real quick, you're going to have a contact already in mind. I'll go ahead and probably create one from scratch. That way you can see how that's done. I'm going to try my best to stay out of the contacts application just because that has a ton of features and I really want to focus in on all the opportunities. So you would create an opportunity when you have a client who wants to A, submit an offer on a property that you may have shown them, or B, if you have a seller who wants to sell their property, then you're going to have to create what is called an opportunity, which is how you can gather all the paperwork. But before we do that, I'm going to dive into the settings. I just want to make sure that my DocuSign is connected correctly. So that way I have access to all the paperwork. If for some reason you did not complete your Scott Leroy, we'll look at yours if you don't have the email. But we'll go through all the settings and things like that. We'll get you set up if you need to. One other thing that I'll mention is once you do have your DocuSign account connected to Command, you just want to make sure that you are a member of the board, GTAR, MLS, so that's how you gain access to the forms. So if you have not done that yet, you will not have access to the forms just yet. But once you do become a member, you'll have access to all the forms. So I'm going to click on settings and it's going to take us to the back end of Command. And as you can see here, I have a DocuSign account connected and even a Dotloop account. I'm not going to cover Dotloop in today's class, but if you are a Dotloop user or have heard of other agents using Dotloop, you can connect it to Command and it works the same way that DocuSign would. So basically with this connection, you can get paperwork signed and submit for compliance all in the same place without having to go from one website to the other. But I'll show you what that all looks like. So again, I have my DocuSign connected. Do you have yours? Are you able to, did you log in, Justin? So if you don't have yours logged in, send me or connected, send me an email and we'll get together and get yours connected. If not, we'll get Scott on there and get it connected. So that's that. Real quick, since we're in the back end of the command center, I want to show you guys some settings here under opportunity. So if you click on command settings, you'll be able to see here that there are opportunity settings here. So under opportunity settings, you can do things like edit your checklist. You can edit your client updates. So you can send your clients emails once transactions are moved from one phase to another, and we'll cover that, but you can schedule when they're sent out versus, because you don't, let's say you're updating a transaction, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you may not want to email your clients at that time. Or if you don't care, because it's an email, it's not like it's a phone call, you can choose how you want that to happen. But the system will email your clients who you're working with updates, like if you're moving it from active to under contract or whatever the case is. The system will email them every step of the way. Some agents, it's a love or hate. So some agents love that kind of visibility. Other agents are like, I don't want them to see what I'm doing when I'm doing it because, I want to kind of stay behind the scenes. It's not something you have to use, but you can use it if you want to. So again, that's how you send your clients updates. Opportunity tags. I'll show you what these look like. A lot of people don't use these. You can organize your transactions by type. So for instance, if you have a transaction with a first-time home buyer and that becomes your niche, that becomes the type of buyer that you're going to be working with, then you may want to organize those buyers by area or by type of loans that they're getting, depending on how many relationships you're having with your buyers. You can also organize your transactions by sellers and listings, right? Like by sellers and buyers. There are multiple ways that you can organize your transactions. This is just a way for the system to help you see all those transactions in one shot. So another example, since you may be starting new in real estate, you may have ex-coworkers or even current coworkers that you're working with that you're going to be helping them with some homes. You can organize those by coworkers, by family members, by friends. So that way you're looking at those specific groups at any specific time. So that's how those work. So here under the opportunities tag, you'll be able to edit and or delete tags when you create them. So if you created a first-time home buyer and you end up not really working with those folks much, then you can go ahead and delete those or delete it from here. You can also create a tag from here. So again, you can create a tag for if you're a part of a church group or if you're a part of an activity, community group, anything like that. If you're a part of a softball team, for instance, you can create a tag so you know all the opportunities that are coming from that specific source. that kind of data. If you have an analytical brain, that will help you kind of organize the data from that perspective. But again, these are all features that you don't have to use. They're just there. Then you also have the activity archive, opportunity archive. So what that means is we'll go through the opportunities application, and I'll show you where they're all listed in a list. You can choose to delete, quote unquote, it's called archive, opportunities that with people you're no longer working with. The only time that I would recommend to archive an opportunity, which of course you can always restore it, right? You can always come here and, kind of bring it back to the opportunities application, is if you work with someone and you never want to know about them again, right? You had a really bad experience, or you fired them, whatever the case is. That's when I would archive an opportunity, because if the opportunity is just sitting there, it doesn't hurt any. So it's not like it's going to go anywhere. It just won't be visible on the list, but I'll show you what that list looks like. So if you happen to archive an opportunity by mistake, this is where you would come to restore it, right? To kind of bring it back to life. Reoccurring deductions, we're going to go ahead and skip that. So, actually, no, reoccurring deductions. So you are going to be filling out a commission tab. A commission tab is where you list out everything that's happening with the closing money. So you're going to get a commission. You plug in everything that's going on with that commission, whether you gave your buyers a credit, if you're buying your buyers a home warranty, if you have a referral to pay, all of that gets accounted for under that commission tab, and I'll show you what that looks like. But you can also have automatic deductions for KW Cares, KW Kids Can, and Bold. You can donate basically to those organizations. They're all nonprofits and things like that. And Bold Scholarship is basically helping someone take our seminar where they could help them find business. And we have more information on all these organizations if you're interested on the side note. So then you have reports that you can pull up from your activities. So you can set reminders, you can do work days or days off when you're working in the back end for the for opportunity support that you can control. You can see when you're working most, kind of, reporting from that perspective. Not something that's used a bunch, but it's just an option. And then I think that's going to be the last thing for opportunities. I don't think the logs, yeah, those are for contacts. So that's something separate. So those are all the opportunity settings. So now we're going to go over to the opportunities application. Don't have any questions. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go over to the opportunities application. So here, you can expand your menu by clicking on the KW here, and it'll show you everything here on the left-hand side. These applications, like the ones on your phone, do something specific. So if you have a transaction that you're trying to close, you're going to go to the opportunity section. If you're trying to add someone to your database, you're going to go to the contact section. So like your phone, right? We make phone calls with our phone, but you can do so much more with your phone. Same thing here. You can add other applications. They won't be listed here on the left-hand side, but on the back end where we were, you can go to the marketplace, similar to like your app store, and connect other vendors or websites to your command. Examples of that would be like realtor.com, Zillow. There's also a third-party vendor called API Nation that will help you connect like your contacts from Gmail, all those kind of things you can connect. So that way you don't have to update two databases. You can basically have Gmail send your contacts to command and then work from there. Now that we are in the opportunities application, you're going to see a couple different things. Again, you're going to have to create an opportunity every single time that someone wants to do something in real estate, like where they want to buy or sell, right? So it's good to remember this process, because if not, it's going to be chaotic when you are showing homes on a weekend. It'll be like 9 p.m. on a Sunday, and they're like, hey, I want to put an offer in on XYZ. You're going to have to do this. So just learn how to do this. I have, not only can you watch this class again recorded for us, you can also go to Scott Leroy's YouTube channel. If you go to their website and you go down to you log in and you type in 738, it will allow you to access to their website, which you might have been here when you set up your resources. This is where you're going to come to set up yours. Once you log in, it's going to give you access to the agent resource tab. You see here where it says recorded trainings. This is where you would go to see all the recorded trainings on anything command, including opportunities. So if I go to command here, opportunities is right here. So just like this class that I'm covering all the features, they have someone else who is doing the exact same thing. So full disclosure, when I need to prepare for a class like this one, I come to this website and I watch this class. They have them every week or every month, right? They always have a current one. So this is always the most current place to find all the information. So this is where I come as well to kind of brush up. I actually used to work for them. They're a great company. I used to do the trainings with them online. So always a great resources when it comes to what you want to learn. If you want to learn marketing, come here and look at the marketing stuff. If you want to learn email campaigns, come here and look at that stuff. It's great. It's a great resource. So now coming back to the opportunities application, you have three different types of applications or opportunities. Sorry, you have listings, buyers, and leases. Full disclosure, leases are the least amount of they're not very popular within real estate in Florida, just because you do just as much work as the other two, but you get paid maybe $50. Not worth it to run around town, show people rentals, and then get paid $50 because it's just not lucrative from that perspective. The way that you can make a little bit more money as from a lease perspective is if someone says, hey, I would like you to put my property up for lease. Typically the way that works is you get paid the first month's rent. So if the first month's rent's a couple grand, then you get paid a couple grand depending on what you negotiate. Just remembering there's no standard prices, you negotiate all that kind of stuff. Okay. So leases are just the lease amount used. We do have agents here who do them all the time. Some agents will just refer that stuff out just because they are too busy or don't have time for it. Or you know, whatever the story may be. So that's that. Then you have buyers and then you have listings. These all work the same. The goal here is for you to enter in your folks into the Cultivate section and work them from one phase to the other, right? So you enter people into Cultivate, you work them into, you have an appointment with them, you work them into it being an active listing, and then you hopefully get them under contract and then close. So the goal is to get everyone, whether a buyer or seller, from Cultivate all the way over to close. Each one of these phases has stages, right? So what that means is once you have a listing under an active listing under contract, you're going to have to choose what that process looks like. So what are your steps? Is it making sure that escrow was delivered, right, to the title company, making sure that you have everything plugged in from an inspection perspective, all those kind of things that you'll learn. We also have Title that does classes here to help you guys learn that process. You can have a checklist here. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I have an active listing here. It'll be an example, not a legit active listing. So for instance, you see here that I'm under the active phase or stage, and I have a couple different stages. So once a listing is active, it's either going to be staging, showing, or negotiating, right? So those are the stages of this specific section. However, you can edit these stages, right? So if I go here to stage checklist, it'll let me edit the standard ones that are here, right? So if I click this little edit pencil here, I can rename this whatever I want to call it. These are just the ones the system comes with out of box. You decide what you want this process to look like. And then there's also a checklist here. So when the listing is under this stage, what are the items that you're responsible for? You can add items like call so-and-so, call vendors, whatever the process is, you can create a checklist here. And that way you streamline the process. Every single time you have a listing, you're going to be doing the exact same thing for the most part. Yes, the clients are different, and yes, the property may be different, but from a real estate perspective, you're going to be required to do paperwork and do all those same things. So it's just good to set up a checklist if you want to. You do not have to use this part of the system. I'll keep saying that. It's just options. If you're an organized person, this system will help you stay organized. So I'm going to go back here to the active stage, and you can see here that I can technically take an active listing that's under negotiating, and I can say, oh, guess what? This one's under contract now. So I can literally drag and click where I want this listing or this opportunity to be, right? So I just moved it over to legacy. I'm going to move it over to under contract. So there you go. It's now under contract. So I'm going to go here, and now you have it here. So from a visual perspective, this is pretty cool. But if you could care less about this checklist, and you can just do it all from inside the opportunity itself. Okay. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second, because I'm going to create one from scratch. So any questions? Good. All right, cool. All right, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to create an opportunity here in a couple minutes, but you do have, if you click on the gear, it takes you over to the settings, which is where we were earlier about, under the opportunity settings. And again, how I got there was just clicking on this gear here, and then it'll take you to the settings. All right. So the other thing I wanted to cover here is I have a team that I have under here that we use for the office purposes. If you don't have a team, most likely if you're a newer agent or if you're not on a team, it'll say coaching here, right? Because you're under coaching, that's technically a team for the first 6 transactions. However, the profiles work exactly the same, except you're going to go from one profile to the other, like you would a profile on Facebook. certain things are available under that specific profile. So you can have multiple profiles on Facebook technically, but you just have to make sure you're under the right one. So anything under coaching, if you want your coach to see it, you would create the opportunity under coaching. If it's something different that you're working with, whether marketing or things like that, you maybe do that under your personal. As far as contacts and where they go, your contacts all should be imported and or created under your personal profile and then moved over once you're working with them, which means if they want to do something with you, buy a house, sell a house, then move them over to coaching. And if you ask me about that in a database class, I can show you how to do that. Or there are instructions that I can also provide you. But I didn't want to get into the contacts part just because I want to focus on the opportunities. But you can move contacts from your personal over to coaching as you need to. So as you see here, you may only have opportunities under your name. So you do have 2 pipelines if you have a coaching profile or a team. So this is the team profile. This is the my personal opportunity. Remember, there are 2 profiles, so they can only exist in one place. And then if you go under all opportunities, you'll see the list of opportunities that I was telling you guys about earlier. So this is where I would say, if you're going to never work with someone again, and you're like, God, that person was horrible to me, or I fired them, or they're just decided to never do anything in real estate. If you wanted to not see them on this list, it doesn't hurt anyone if they're on this list. As you can see here, I have 65 of them. I can say, show me 75 at a time. Here are all the opportunities that I've ever had here within Command. If I, for some reason, don't want to see an opportunity, I can click the 3 dots here and just click archive. And then it sends it to that list in the back end that I showed you guys earlier. And that's how you would archive an opportunity. But again, I would only do that if I don't want to work with them anymore or I'm done with them. One more thing that I'll show you, if I go here to this example, this 123 Main Street, and I click on lost opportunity, it basically does the same thing, except it still may show up on the list, but it still makes it takes it out of the pipeline. Make sense? So if this opportunity was on, this opportunity right now technically is under the appraisal stage, right? So if I was to click on lost opportunity, it should just take it out of the pipeline, but it'll leave it on that list. Cool. So now I'm going to go back to the homepage of opportunities. And I'm going to click on create opportunity, right? So I'm going to click on create opportunity. I have a buyer that wants to buy a house. I just spent all weekend showing them homes, and now they want to buy one of the homes. So that's what I'm going to be plugging in here. As far as what I'm going to cover today, everything that has an asterisk, I have to put something in there, right? It's a required field. If it's not a required field, I'll comment on it, but we're going to move forward. So again, it's going to tell me that it's from Tampa Central because that's the Keller Williams we're at. The team, I could make this under team. In your case, if you're in coaching and you want to create one of these, it will only allow you to create them under the coaching profile. So you're going to have to move those over to coaching. And if you meet with me individually, we can cover just that process. But if you're not in coaching, then you can go about your business. Some teams require the same thing as well. Opportunity type, I'm going to say a buyer. I'm going to act like a buyer. I'm the owner of the opportunity. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to search for a contact. So hopefully I have one that I can use. If not, I could create one. Let me see if I have any of my, there you go. So if you've seen Game of Thrones, you should know who Catelyn Stark is. So if I go here, I can select my contact. For instance, if my contact wasn't created, I said in the beginning of class, I didn't want to go into the contacts application. I could technically create a new contact. If I start typing in a name, Mickey Mouse does exist, but if I type in test, test is there as well. Let me see. Let's type in Justin. So I don't have a Justin, right? So I can click create contact here and it will let me create the contact. So if I click this button here, it will then create Justin's contact. And then I just have to go back in the contact app and fill in his email and stuff like that. But I'm going to go ahead and let's just use Mickey Mouse since he popped up. So Mickey Mouse is there. I could add a co-buyer if he had one, right? Minnie Mouse is not involved in this transaction, but I could add her if I wanted to. And then we're going to go down here and I'm going to plug in the opportunity name. So it's going to default to your client's name, in this case, Mickey Mouse. And the type, we said it was a buyer, right? It's a buyer type. So it's telling me this is Mickey Mouse's opportunity with a buyer. I always like to add the property address if I have it. If you're just plugging people in under your Cultivate section, you're not going to have the address yet. So you always come back to this. But since we're doing this fully, I'm going to say that Mickey Mouse is buying 123 Main Street. So now I have an address here. This helps the office find your opportunity. It helps us find it quicker just because we may not know you're working with Mickey Mouse. And if we get some sort of correspondence to it, it's not going to have Mickey Mouse's name. It's going to have the property address. So that's why we always encourage you guys to use the property address. Custom tags we talked about, right? So where is it coming from? Whether it's coworkers, family members, you can organize your I'll select this as training, for instance. That's a perfect example. So you can organize your opportunities any way you want to. So if you want to see a specific type of opportunity at one time. Estimated close date is not a required field, but we're going to fill that in. I'm going to say that Mickey wants to close on his house on Halloween. He's got a party he wants to plan. And I'm going to say his time frame so far is going to be 6 months, but he wants to close on Halloween. Mickey has a good budget of 600,000, right? And we're going to say, based on what I'm seeing on MLS, that this pays 3%. But depending on the property is what it gets paid. And that'll tell you on MLS how that all works out. Okay. So I'm going to say that this pays 3%. Remember that pipeline we've been talking about, which is right behind here. This is how you would put it in what phase. So we're going to say that Mickey is an active buyer and that we're currently negotiating. And that's how I would place it in the pipeline. Okay. I'm going to click create. It'll take me to the opportunity. And now we're going to do a couple different things. The details tab is where you're going to want to plug in as much information as possible about 123 Main Street, because it will, that information, if it's relevant on the paperwork, it'll automatically fill it in for you, right? So that it's less work on the back end, right? So I'm going to click here. I'm going to plug in the address. Believe it or not, Main Street does exist in Florida in a couple places. So there's Main Street. We're going to go ahead and hit save. So now we have the address here. And you can go through here and plug in any other information that you may find relevant, like the legal description. So we'll just say Magic Kingdom is the legal description, right? Just to see if it see our test. So now I put our legal description in there. But again, you can plug in everything that makes sense. Not every field here is required, but if you don't plug in something that you're going to have to, like the price or the property address, you're just going to have to type it up on the document. So this saves you. So you have multiple documents you're going to be using. If you type in the address here, then that saves you time from having to type it in on every single one of those documents. So it does save you time. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to go to the actual document section, which is where your contracts are going to be, or your checklist at least. Now we're going to click here under select the checklist. So you're going to see here, it says residential, new construction, vacant land, referral, and commercial. Each one of these has its own requirements, but we're going to work with residential. However, you could work in any one of these, right? It's up to you or whatever client you're working with. So we're going to say it's a residential client. Mickey Mouse is buying a house. And I'm going to go here, and then we have a couple of different folders on the left-hand side. On this folder here, you'll have our copy of our W-9. So if you click there, it'll give you a copy of that. So if you ever need it, it's there. And then you're going to have the buyer brokerage agreement. So this is an agreement between you and your buyer that they're going to buy from you, and they'll give you a range. Most agents like to use this document just because it makes it a little bit more official. Like anything in real estate, if you were to get a buyer to sign one of these and they go work with somebody else, you can technically take them to court. However, that does cost money. So technically, this is one of those forms that people just like to use. So buyers take it seriously and they know that you're spending your time with them, not necessarily to sue someone, but technically if you have the resources, you could, if they work with someone else and not you after they signed, right? Yeah. But getting a lawyer involved in anything, not that the lawyer would, but usually it's a mediator, it costs money. So it may cost more money than it's worth, right? To kind of pursue someone. It's just, again, making the buyer aware that you are a professional and that, you don't want to waste your time, nor theirs. So that's that document. And if you're in coaching, your coaches will cover all these documents. It does say required here, just mostly because we want to call your attention to it, not necessarily because you have to use it. We recommend you do, but you don't have to. Okay. Then when we go up to the under contract folder, you're going to see that you have a checklist here. So there's a couple of things that I like to point out here. So if you've ever worked with Excel, you can sort by the title. So if I click on requirement, it'll sort by requirement, conditional, and then optional. So of course, if you're going to sell something, I need a contract, and then I need an escrow receipt if there is escrow. And then we have some standard disclosures that you're going to have to provide us with. Pre-approval, right? You shouldn't be showing anyone any properties unless you know the person is qualified to buy it. So that's why a pre-approval is kind of required. And then of course the tax records for whatever property you're working with. You wouldn't believe the number of agents who have a whole conversation with the seller and it's not the seller, it's someone else that's listed on the property. So always pull up the records, make sure you're talking to the owner of the house who makes decisions. You don't want to waste your time, right? So there's that. And then you have conditional paperwork and optional paperwork. The reason things are optional is, not every property is going to need a lead-based paint or HOA, or have, if it's a condo, it's going to need completely different paperwork. So that's why it's conditional. Then you have optional paperwork. So a buyer can buy a house and elect to not have an inspection. We don't recommend it, but they can choose that they don't want to do it. They could be like, I want it either way. So that's why something like an inspection report is considered optional, right? But it's just something to put it in your radar. So now that we've covered a checklist, I'm going to cover one more thing. So if you're working with with buyers in multiple properties, most likely, you'll work with a buyer and they'll lose a house or two before they get serious about it. A lot of the times they'll want to play the low ball game, right? And lose a couple properties before they get serious about not wanting to lose the one they really want. So if you needed to create a new folder, you can go here under the under contract and you can literally create a new folder to set up a new property. But that also means that you're going to have to go back under the details tab to update the property address, right? You could also just go back to the beginning and start over every single time you have a property. Agents do it both ways, however your mind works. I, for one, just like to go back to the beginning and start from scratch because I want to just make sure I didn't miss anything. However, it's however you want to deal with it. So because let's say that you put the offer together and you don't even get it accepted, you're not technically under contract, so you could just start over and just update. But that also means you'd have to go back through the documents and update the address. I just get fearful of missing something and then it being under contract and then being the wrong information. So I'd rather just start over, but that's just me. So that's how you start a new folder. So literally, if I click folder, it'll usually name it version 2. So if I click create new, now I have 2 versions of the same folder. So now I can go back and forth. And that means that the paperwork for the first property will stay intact here, and then you'll have the paperwork for the second property. Same thing goes for listings. Okay. So I'm going to stick with the under contract folder number 1. And then under the closed folder, you have closing paperwork. So after you've closed, we'll need a statement of the closing statement, the ALTA. We'll need a buyer's final walkthrough, which we require on every single property, even on listings. And then you'll also need any other paperwork that may apply. That's listed there. Again, optional, right? Versus required. So now we're going to go under the under contract folder. And again, there are tasks here that you can remind yourself within here. The system will send you reminders. So it'll create a task under the task application over here. If you create it or if you use this part of the system, as you can see here, it says client updates. I have that turned off. If you elect to turn that on, every time you do something in here, it'll send your clients an update, right? You can export your documents if you need to save them on your computer. Has a ton of features there. You also can generate a transaction seat. So sometimes you may need to provide either an inspector or a title company with information. You can go here to generate a summary and you can decide what you want to provide with them, what like buyer information, opportunity dates, transaction dates. So if I click here and I click generate, it'll literally create a PDF information of everything that's on this transaction. When are we planning on closing? All that good stuff will get generated for you. Okay. It'll even do the commission tab, which we'll come back to. So now we're going to go through here and we're going to start the transaction. I have dotloop connected. So of course it's going to give me both options. You with your membership to our office, it includes a DocuSign account. So you're only going to have a DocuSign account, which is great. If you do happen to be paying for dotloop on your own, you can use dotloop as well. It's an option. Okay. So I'm going to go, before we click here, I'm going to cover one more thing here. If you go down here, you can create custom folders to save any type of paperwork. So this is just another place where you can save inspection reports. You can save any kind of title searches, any kind of things like that. Something that may not be listed here, you can save here in another folder. But again, if you want to submit something for compliance, you're going to want to use the 3 original folders just because you won't be able to submit these down here. So if I click here and I just do test, create, now I have a test folder here that I can upload paperwork to for storage. Okay. The other thing is if I wanted to add something to this checklist, I could do that by clicking these 3 dots here. It'll give me more options. So if I go here, it'll give me add a document. I can split a PDF. So if you ever have a PDF that's one big long PDF, you can split it into multiple pages. You can also export your documents here. So I'm going to add a document and I'm going to go here and just type in class and then document type. I'm going to say that it's a disclosure. And then we're just going to select a document from my computer to upload. So now I'm going to say this seller's property disclosure can be uploaded here. And now at the bottom here, you'll see where it says additional documents and whatever you name it, and then you can include it in your paperwork. So if you have, 5 addendums, I only give you one spot for one addendum, but some transactions may require more. You can add multiple documents that way if you need to for record keeping. Okay. Make sure I didn't forget anything else here. We talked about client updates. Let's see here. I have these turned off, but I'm going to click turned on in case you want it. You're interested in client updates. Again, you pick when to send the updates. You pick the owner who you're sending it to. Mickey Mouse is going to get the email. It'll also send it to me as the assignee, and I can also add different contacts here from my database. Like if it's a co-buyer, right? But the reason I brought you here is because I can go here to preview, and it'll show you what the update will look like, right? So it'll give you the update from the sense of, the name, the property address, and then what's been done, whether that's, oh, we're under contract now, or we're in the inspection period, whatever the case is, it'll give you the update there. And all this stuff, it's got, the guy from The Office, Dwight, I think is his name. This is just because it's an example, but it'll have your information there, of course, when you send it. So no worries there. I'm gonna go ahead and turn these off again, and then hit save changes. And now we're going to start the transaction. So I'm going to click start a transaction. I'm going to go to DocuSign, and it's going to open up another tab. So now under the DocuSign tab, it's going to give me a couple different options. Of course, I have to sign in. Just go ahead and sign in. Actually, cancel with that one. Let's go ahead and sign in under. Let's do that one. And then next. Logging in here. So once DocuSign loads for you, it'll create the room, which is where your paperwork's going to be. Typically, when you load here, it'll preload the documents for you. Mine did not because I'm using a different account. So I'm going to go ahead real quick and just add some documents here. But technically, yours would have documents in there as long as you have your password and you don't wait too long. So I'm just going to go here to this contract one. And I'm going to add the as is, the buyer walkthrough. Technically, you hopefully don't have to do this because it will have yours selected already. So when you got to this screen originally, it'll look like this. You'll have documents there already. If you don't have access to the MLS, it'll show you this section. But when you click on the actual documents, it is not going to let you read the document because you don't have access to it. Once you join the board, you're going to add your MLS ID. And then it'll give you access to the document. But real quick, you'll see here that it's pre-filled Mickey, right? He's my buyer. The address is here as well. And then you have my purchase price, right? We said it was 600 he was buying. And then my close date of Halloween. So that's what I meant with it'll pre-fill the dates for you and the information if you take the time. I could just take a moment now and fill that in now. So there's no wrong way of doing it. It's just whatever your preference is, right? So that's that document. I mentioned to you guys that if you type in things like the address in the details tab of the opportunity, it'll take its time to put it in every document. So if I open this document, the standard disclosure, we are going to see if it entered in Mickey's name and the address. And there it is. Here's Mickey's name as the buyer. And then there's the address. This is also where you would put that broker fee that you're going to charge your clients, that the broker will charge you, that $195. This is where that fee would go. So I'm going to, just for practice, I'm going to plug in the $195 there and hit save.
So you charge them that fee instead of you paying for it.
Correct. If you don't charge them that fee, you'll pay it. It'll come out of your commission. So it's completely up to you. There's also a place where you charge your clients more than $195. Most agents will charge like a $395, and then you get to keep the difference. And it's for the first 10 transactions. So we'll still charge you the $195 as an office. However, after the 10 transactions, you'll be able to keep the money. Because it's a transaction fee. It's the cost of doing business. It's the cost of the file getting reviewed. It's all of those things. Yep. Okay. So that's how you do that. I'm not going to cover how to create an envelope or how to send these documents. That'll be a DocuSign 101 class. If you are following and you want to do that next step after this class, I'd recommend, again, going back to Scott's website, logging in with the 738, go to recorded trainings, and he has a DocuSign section, and it'll take you to the DocuSign 101 section. DocuSign 101 will show you how to recreate the opportunity, but it picks up and shows you how to send the paperwork. I highly recommend you guys take this class just because it gives you a foundation of what to do. It's a very much a stressful time if you don't take the time to learn these two platforms, and then you get a client that wants to buy something and you have to tell your coach, A, I don't know how to use the system and I don't know what documents to use, versus I know how to send the documents, I just don't know which one to use. You see how that conversation is different because you're just focusing on the document and your client's needs. If you don't know how to use the system, you don't know how to use it is number one. And number two, now you have your clients that are on you to send this offer, and it just makes it a stressful time. So take the time now to learn opportunities in DocuSign. So that way, when you're working with a client, you're just worried about their needs. and your coach will help you use the correct forms and get the property under contract, which is how you get paid, right? So that's that. One more thing about DocuSign, and then we'll go back to opportunities. The last thing we're going to cover is the commission section. If I go here and I have filled out my documents and everything's fine like that, you'll be able to submit for compliance. I'm going to act like I sent these for signature, right? And we're going to click on add. Actually, you know what? I can send, let's do this one. Let's send this one for signature. Let's act like I filled all these out with what my clients want and all the information when it comes to the offer details. I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to click on this here to create an envelope. I'm going to just say I'm working with a buyer. And I'm going to go here and say buyer's agent, and I'm going to click continue. Again, I recommend selecting all the documents when you fill them out together and sending them all at once, because you don't want to send them individual documents for individual forms because they'll hate you. I would. So just do it all at once. All right. So we're going to go here. It's going to automatically fill in Mickey's name because he's my buyer, right? I plugged that information in before, and he's going to fill in my name as the agent because I'm the buyer's agent. Here's where you can fill in, please DocuSign. I would just say like buyer's paperwork. You could also put the property address here, whatever you want, right? Buyer's paperwork, 123 Main Street, completely up to you, right? And then the message will say, please review and sign, right? Whatever you want to say to them. I'm going to click next. And here's my document. I could make edits here, right? Even though I had pre-filled it, I could say, you know what? I'm going to make this a $295 because that's going to be my transaction fee. So you can edit the documents before you send them. If the document originated in DocuSign, which means you got it from DocuSign, it will allow you to edit it at this point. If it's a PDF, you'll just have to use these fields, right? And drag over fields to edit, right? Because it's a PDF, it's not, you have to make the edits happen. So now that I've done that, we're not going to do that. So hopefully I can unclick that. I can go down, right? Read through that disclosure. It'll automatically add the fields for my buyer to sign and my signature fields. Okay. The same thing would be true if we would have selected more than one document. All that stuff will be done for you as long as the document originated in DocuSign. If it's a PDF, you're going to have to add signature fields, right? Because it's a PDF. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and send this to myself. While you guys are not looking, I'm going to hopefully sign on my phone. Let's see here. So I got an email that I was invited to participate, and then I should get an email with the signature fields. And I did a mistake here. So I have not received it yet, but you know why? When I put Mickey's email and my email, you see how it says 1 and 2? I'm never going to get that because Mickey's email doesn't exist. I don't know that Mickey's email is mickey@disney.com, right? So I have to make these match. So I'm going to go here to hit correct. And so we can get through this document, I'm going to change Mickey's email and I'm going to use one of my work emails. So MCTT, which you guys have. Now I'm insured to get that. And I'm going to change this to 1, which means Mickey and me will get the email at the same time. Make sense? Versus sending it to this person, then this person. It's completely up to you how you want to handle that. So I'm going to hit next. I'm not correcting the form, so I'm just going to hit correct and it'll automatically resend it for me. So now I'll receive both emails. So it'll say need signatures, right? So I can go ahead and sign this now because I'm the buyer's agent, right? So I'm going to click here and hit sign. Click continue. Allow. Click continue. Start. Sign as the agent. Finish. And that's done. So now let's go back and see if I can get the signature here for the other thing. And delete that. Eric Gonzalez, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Signature. So now I'm just going to use this one here. Nope, I don't want that one. I want, which one is it? Let's see here. Maybe it's this one, hopefully. This one may already be signed. Allow. This one was already signed. Cool. So we're going to go back to the email. Of course, 50-50 shot. I got it wrong. So I'm going to sign now as Mickey Mouse, continue, start, sign. We'll save it. All right, we'll go there, finish. So now I've signed as the buyer. No thanks. We're gonna stay signed out. Now I would have got an email that Mickey and me have signed. Now this will go from waiting for others to it's been completed, right? I've got a complete form. Now in my document section, I refresh, hopefully, I will have a certificate of signature, which means that's what's verifying the signatures. It's completed. Come on, refresh. There you go. Here's my certificate of signature. Here's my original form. And then here is my signed document. You see how it says signed? I personally, once I get signatures, I like to archive the other ones because it becomes a mess in here. So now I'm just going to get rid of those two forms. I'm going to click archive in case I need to unarchive it. I'm going to go here, archive. If I need to unarchive something, I can go to this dropdown. You see where it says archived. I can go there and I can unarchive it, or go to all documents. It'll show me the ones that have been archived, but I like to keep it under active documents. So now that I have this document here, I can now submit for compliance. And we're pretending that I have the entire offer put together, not just one document, right? Real quick, if you are a member, if you have not added your MLS ID, your MLS ID needs to be added under preferences for you to gain access to the documents. If when that time comes, come see me and I'll help you get access to the documents if you haven't yet. So now that we have our executed contract, we're going to go in here under documents and I'm going to refresh our opportunity. And you basically are going to play the old school matching game, right? So you're going to go here under contract and you're going to go find in the room. So we're going to say documents coming from DocuSign and it's from the rooms. Now you would just match contract with contract, the addendums with the addendum. So this is a KW standard disclosure. So if I click here under requirement, you see here how it says KW standard disclosure. I'm just matching that document to the checklist, right? So I'm going to go here, match my document. Now it's here. I can open up that document. You have Mickey Mouse's name, you have the address, and then you have the $295 transaction fee that I'm charging, along with all of our other signatures, right? So we're going to go, now that I've done that, you would technically put in all your forms, match them up. If they're coming from your computer, then you would say my computer here, and you would update your documents. Now that I've done that, I have a green submit to MC. I can submit to my market center, right? That sends the paperwork to me in the office and I review it and I tell you what I need still. I will review your stuff and I will tell you what else I need. So now that I've done that, I'm going to click on add a comment and I'm going to add a comment. I can't send the comment to myself, right? But if you're in your account, I would pop up as an option, right? So now you could go here and then type in your, hey, new contract, please review, let me know if anything's missing. And again, how you make that happen is just pulling up the @ symbol. We'll pull up the staff for you. All right. So there's that. We're almost done here, guys. So I've submitted for compliance. Now, the last thing we're going to cover is offers and commissions. So offers and commissions you're going to do once you have something on the contract and you're going to close. You want to do this after the property's been appraised because then you know that your price isn't going to change, but your property changes price most likely for two reasons. Inspection report comes back and the seller's going to do some repairs, and or the seller's like, look, I'll take $5,000 off the house, but you guys accept the property as is. So that'll change the contract price. Or when you get an appraisal done, the appraisal will either come up higher than the contract price or lower, depending on the paperwork, right? You can say, hey, this house has to appraise for $600,000, which is Mickey's budget. However, let's say that it appraises for $550. Then at that point, you have to renegotiate that price and figure out who's bringing more money to the table, right? Or is the new price $550? It depends. The seller doesn't have to accept that, and nor does the buyer. So that's a negotiation thing. But in this case, let's say that the house came back at $625. So that means that the $600,000 price works for this specific thing. So now I'm under contract for $600,000. The house has appraised. The inspection report came back clean. There were no repairs needed done. I'm going to click on add new offer. That means that I'm going to account for the offer that my buyer has. So I'm going to go in here and initial offer. I could also type in, Mickey's offer. And then we're going to say that our offer date was today, and then our contract date is going to be the 31st. That's when we're closing. And then 123 Main Street is our address. There's our address. I'm going to hit parties. So this section here, guys, this is meant when you're on the seller side and you have multiple offers, you could technically plug in all your offers and your seller can review them through command. I'm not going to do that because on the buyer side, that doesn't make sense. They're not going to accept a review. They're either going to get their offer accepted or not. They're not going to use command for that. So for the seller, I'm just going to plug in seller. And then for address, I'm going to type in the address of the property. Main Street. And then if you know the buyers, if you know the seller's agent or the listing agent's name, plug it in. For this example, I'm going to plug in listing agent, right? And then you can plug in any other information you want. If you're working with an agent and you want Dallas to give them a call because you think that they were a great agent and they'd be a great fit for our office, go ahead and fill in their information here and then he'll be able to see it. Okay. Terms. Here again is where you would plug in the terms for your specific offer if your seller was looking at multiple offers on their property. In this case, we're on the buyer side, so we're going to pretty much just put the purchase price of $600,000 under cash. It doesn't matter. Again, if you were going to use this with your seller and send them multiple emails so they can review, you would fill all this out. Agent analyze. So we go here, and this is where you would put your pros and your cons. What's good about the offer? What's bad about the offer? And then your summary. Again, this is if you're going to send it to your seller, but we're not doing that. So I'm going to leave it blank. I'm going to hit save. Now that's why it says accept or reject, because you could technically click here and send the offer to your sellers, right? Send offer, and it would send them a copy. You can even copy yourself on it. Again, from a buyer's perspective, you're not going to do this. So that's why we're not going to worry about all those details. I'm going to click accept. And I'm going to hit manage commissions. Now this part's going to get a little bit hasty, but I'm going to try to get you guys to follow me. So based on what I'm plugging in, so Mickey's budget is $600,000. That's what we're under contract for. The MLS told me that I'm getting paid 3%. However, if you've been on MLS, you know that there's a thing called an MLS fee that the other agent may charge you off your commission. They're charging you money, right? So we're going to go here and we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to say the contract date is today, which is the 26th, I think. And we're going to take that MLS fee off. So the MLS fee in this case is $500 that other agent is charging me. If that agent is charging me $500, that means I'm not getting that money. I'm not paying taxes on money I don't receive. So that money has to come off the top. So I'm going to take it off this $18,000, which if I know math, it's $17,500, right? So that's how much I accounted for that agent charging me that fee. If you don't take that fee off of here, the title company is not going to be able to give you your money. They're going to have to give you one check and come to us because the numbers aren't going to match with this commission tab. So remember, the MLS fee, whether you're charging it or paying it, comes off the top. Okay. So in this case, we're on the buyer side. So I'm paying that $500 fee and I'm going to hit save and submit. All right. I'm going to go down to the next section here and I'm going to account for, remember that $295 fee I charged Mickey? He got money. I'm going to charge him that fee, right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to account for that fee. And I'm also going to pay my coach. I'm in coaching. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom and I'm going to hit add item. Add item. Go here. I'm going to add the bonus, which is what I'm charging Mickey additional to my commission. I'm charging him $295, right? I am not sharing this with the office. I'm going to keep this because the office is going to charge me the $195 and I'm technically going to keep the $100 difference. Until I hit the 10, then I keep whatever I charge. Click add. Now I'm going to add my coach. My coach is going to be a deduction, right? So my coach is going to get 10% of my commission, which we had discussed is the $17,500, right? So just to make sure we do it correctly, 10% of that is $1,750. So my coach is getting paid $1,750. We're just going to put coaching fee. And we're going to say that my coach is Billy. But you would put your coach's name here, right? And then the address, we can put the office's address. And then the office's phone number. You can put the coach's number, whoever you want. Doesn't matter. So now I'm going to click add. I've accounted for the MLS fee up the top, right? I'm not getting that $500 extra, so I took it off the top. I've accounted for the $295 broker fee that I'm charging my client. I've accounted for coaching. I'm paying Billy. You want to make sure he gets paid because he helped me out throughout this transaction. I have one more thing to account for. Remember the $195 fee I told you that you're going to be paying? you have to add it here. Even if you don't add it, we'll account for it, but you want to add it so you get a realistic number at the end to see what you're going to get paid. So I'm going to add the 195 that the office is charging me, KW fee, KW fee. Again, the office's address, phone number. Add. So now I've accounted for my MLS fee. I took it off the top. I've added my coach. I've added the bonus that I'm charging my clients, and I've also added the 195 that I'm paying, that, you know, I'm paying the office for my transaction fee. I'm going to click save. This will give you an idea of what you're getting paid. It'll also tell you what you're getting paid, you know, your capping. So this will give you a realistic expectation of what this transaction would do towards your cap and how much you have left, right? Then you also have your breakdown over here. It also gives you, if you scroll down, and you can use these arrows to see exactly where this is going to. So you can see the entire breakdown. This is why this section is so important, because it's your money, guys. You need to know where it's going. So this is where you're in control of this. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to add a note to Marta. Let her know that this is a test. So I'm going to click add note, and I'm going to say today's class, pay me in cash, please. Right? She's going to not pay me in cash because I don't get any money. So I'm going to hit save. And now I've added my note, and now I have to submit. I've submitted twice, guys. I'm going to go ahead and do $10 to KW Cares. That's fine. And to KidsCan. And those will then be added to my deductions down here. But now I have my note here. I've submitted here. I've also submitted my documents. You will be submitting twice. You will submit your documents under the under contract folder, and you will submit your commission tab. And then you can see view commissions here. Then Marta, after she approves that, she will give you what's called a DA. A DA is a disbursement authorization. That is what you're going to hand title to get paid at closing. You'll get a check to your name. If you don't do this, your paperwork and your commission tab within a reasonable amount of time, and that's at least a week before closing, you're going to have to wait for us to give you a check. You see how that turnaround time may take longer? You need your money, right? So if you do everything we've done today with a reasonable amount of time, submitting at least a week before closing, if not 3 days, then you'll get a DA, which means you'll get paid at the closing table. Some companies don't take the DA, like a lot of new construction people. They'll give you one check, but we'll do our best to turn your check around as soon as possible. Okay. But that's the process. The next two things we'll cover is notes. You can add notes here that have to do with the transaction. So you have everything, whether it's text messages or whatever the case is, because in the case that you need to refer this transaction, you can always come back here to the notes. And then last but not least is your timeline. This is where you'll see all the activity that you've done along with me as the admin. You'll see what's going on with your transaction, who's downloaded what, who's looked at what. But that's pretty much opportunities within Command. I know I kind of covered that fast at the end, but I wanted to make sure to make that hour mark. But that's pretty much what you're going to do every single time someone says, I want to buy or sell a home. Of course, the selling process is going to have selling paperwork and contract paperwork, but the premise is the same. Cool.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming to class.